Welcome to the Reboot.
Here's your host, Monique Wingard.
Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Reboot. This is show number 3, and we are going to be discussing careers in tech today. Thank you for joining us. And please, I'm going to get started earlier, letting you know that you can give us a call here in the studio at 312-754-4333 because it's going to be a really good discussion. Would love for our listeners to get in on this discussion, and rather than leaving you in suspense, I'll just go ahead and tell you we will be touching a little bit on what does it mean to be black in tech. We hear it all the time, and it means different things to different people, but we're going to share a few personal stories about our journeys through and getting to careers in technology, but to get more specific in terms of what your experience has been being myself, a black woman in tech, and Steve, a black man in tech.
In tech.
Yeah.
That's what I
different experiences there.
Slightly.
Yeah, slightly.
A little bit.
Slightly. So one more time, 312-754-4333, and welcome to the Reboot. We're going to get right into the latest news in tech.
What's happening in tech?
What is happening in tech? Well, what's happening in tech is that artificial intelligence is sending people to jail and getting it wrong. Okay, so MIT Technology Review reports that using historical data to train risk assessment tools could mean machines are copying mistakes of the past.
I called it.
Okay, break that down for us, Steve. What does that mean?
So, I'm an advocate for black people being in tech, creating our own technology, our own systems, and the converse is I feel that if we don't, we'll have systems out there that oppress us. The very same way we have credit reporting systems that we didn't create. Those rating systems don't really reflect our profiles, our true profiles, and they oppress you from having a better quality of life, getting jobs, homes, things of that nature. Well, now you have artificial intelligence that is augmenting public safety, so helping the police departments and so forth to identify, in many cases, just the profiles of people that could be offenders in the future. And so based on the math that is not inclusive of the people in certain neighborhoods or of certain economic backgrounds, we have issues.
We're going to wait for the microphone to act right. Yes, thank you. Okay, continue.
What I was saying, like I said, was the systems that are being put together now are based on I'm not going to say outsider views, but they're not inclusive of the people that are in the communities that are most likely to be policed, right?
Right.
So, in effect, you're putting a layer of technology in place based on biases that from people who don't really understand or are overcompensating for the data that they get. Now, the computers are just doing what they're being told to do without us correcting the biases that have been in those systems for a long time. So you get, ultimately, you'll get an artificial intelligence routine that is based on looking at a profile of someone who's been in trouble when they were in grade school or in high school, and because they live in a certain area, they have a certain economic background, or they're clustered with other people that fit a certain profile. Well, now it's saying, hey, police, go check this person out, potentially for a crime to happen, or investigate them because a crime has happened. And he fits the profile of the perp.
So we're adding
We call them perps in technology.
perps. So we're adding a new layer to police reform.
Yeah.
Via technology
The lack of
is
police
what
reform.
what it sounds like to me.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the first story. Number 2, what do cities need to become inclusive smart cities? Some more smart city information here. That's totally your thing.
It's my thing.
Totally your thing. So, Engage magazine reports that the Smart Cities mission launched by the government of India aims to draw strategy from Indian cities to bring citizens into the equation on developing sustainable environment and application of smart solutions. That was a lot.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
It's simple, but it kind of goes back to the same approach to force feeding technology into a community from the top down. So you have this technocratic approach where the folks that understand the technology are layering the technology into what they think is a problem without the input of the people in those areas. And so what the government of Hyderabad, or not, the government of India has done has said, well, smart cities equate to technologies that are supposed to make the city more economically or environmentally sustainable, better air quality, things of that nature. But the people in the neighborhoods aren't involved in the type of technologies that are coming into those neighborhoods. We can't call a city smart if we're just putting technology in there and we're not involving its citizens. We can't put up better LED lighting and call the city smart. The city becomes smarter because the effect on its people shows true positive impact. And so the government of India has said, well, if we're going to look at making our cities smarter, we can't force feed technology in there. We have to be more inclusive. We have to take a quadruple helix approach, which says you bring in entrepreneurs, the citizens, you bring in the government, you bring in academia, and you bring in industry, and you have a collaborative approach to develop applications that are going to solve true problems, not just say, oh, we have a technology that will sniff the air, let's put it in there, and then all of a sudden it's sniffing people. It depends on the neighborhood. You could.
Where does Chicago measure up in terms of what India is doing and what Chicago, as a smart city, correct?
Smart city
wants to do or is doing.
Yeah, sure. So the term smart city comes from IBM. They actually have a patent on the term. I think back in 2000, long ago, 2009 or so. And so the idea was, hey, we have all these different technologies. We can have cities make a purchase of these technologies and increase our revenues. This is a smart city. It's a package. But other players, other technology players saw that IBM's revenue was increasing by doing that. I mean, a third of their revenue came from this smart city approach around the world, Japan, places, Australia, all over the place. So, so cities start to jump on board to say, hey, what can these technologies do? And so Chicago, in fact, with its former chief technology or chief information officer, Brenna Berman, was one of the leaders in implementing smart city technologies, and that's from the LED, the new lights you see on the street post.
Shout out to Jamila Parham.
Jamila, thank you for your great lighting of the streets. All the way to our Array of Things network, which is a network of sensors, urban sensors that can see, smell, and hear. So we've done things. There's a story that one of the city managers tells when he talks to other cities about Chicago being a smart city. He says, if you're in our city and you're a tourist and you see a rat, our sensor probably saw that rat too. And the sensor told the city, hey, there's a rat over here. So the Department of Sanitation is now responding to that rat, and it's counting the other rats in the area, and it's putting out data that says, here's how you prevent rats, here's how you catch this rat, here's where the rats are likely going to be later. That is one application of a smart city. But 5 years from now, what will be those applications? They'll be absolutely huge. And if we get inclusion from the local entrepreneurs, we do not isolate ourselves as technologists and think that we can answer the questions, we will be better off.
Okay. All right. That's story number two.
Number two.
Of our top three. If you haven't caught on by now, we start the show with the top 3 stories in the news. So we gave you a nice, healthy heaping of smart city news today. But now this part could be, it could be positive, maybe negative, depending on if you are a Lyft driver or not. So Lyft, or what your opinion is, of ride sharing. But anyway, Lyft will now run daily background checks on its drivers. So Lyft will require continuous background checks to tackle issues with sketchy drivers, according to Engadget, yes, which is a tech magazine. The company previously ran annual background checks on its active drivers, but it will now conduct daily scans to ensure the safety of its riders. CNN also reports that last year it was found that 103 Uber drivers and 18 Lyft drivers were accused of sexual assaults. 4 of the Lyft drivers have been convicted. However, more stories of passengers being put in uncomfortable situations have surfaced, and I think we are all aware of a recent situation in which a young lady, she got into the wrong car. I don't even believe it was a Lyft, but that's
She
kind
just
of
got in the wrong car.
but that seems to be just in discussions that I'm overhearing, and even news reports that I'm hearing, and from friends too, that sometimes you're not paying attention to not only the person's face that's on the app that's supposed to be picking you up, but the license plate, and or just any signage at all. Like you're going with type of car, maybe the color of the car, and just assuming that, oh, this is my ride, and you hop in. So
what if we made all of the Lyft cars yellow, put a little light on the top of it?
Oh, are you a taxi cab advocate?
I'm not.
Are you?
I'm not.
Okay.
No.
No. Okay.
No, not at all. I never have been, because we couldn't get picked up from where we were going to go to where we were going.
By we, you mean?
I mean black folk.
Ah, gotcha.
My neighbor is a black person, so I'm an
Okay.
advocate.
Okay. All right.
And
Makes a
then,
difference.
and then what's sketchy when they say sketchy drivers?
I know sketchy. As a
when
woman,
you get in the car.
when you're by yourself, or even in the ride shares, when you pick up somebody, like some of the riders are sketchy and drivers, and this could probably give you a good idea. So a recent tweet thread by actor and comedian, I believe her name is Anna Gilchrist, she faced a recent issue in which she got into the car and the driver leaned in after she just got into the car and asked her if she had a boyfriend. So that's how the ride starts.
Is that sketchy?
That's going past sketchy for me, past.
So if in 10 years the ride-sharing companies report, 50% of riders end up in marriages to their drivers. No.
Yeah, no. That's
And
not.
if it's a woman driver that does that to a man, is it?
That we don't need. Let's just start with fixing the already existing and known issue.
And it's a daily.
And that's not it.
It's a daily check of whether whether you get a report from somebody or.
Well, I did not see that far into it, but actually, you do bring up another point that I had planned on bringing up. Just like with the AI situation, sending people to jail and getting it wrong. So by doing these daily background checks on drivers, and this is part of a friendly debate that we will probably not have later today, but just, for right now, do you see an issue? Like, is there something that just right now jumps out at you that says that this is not a good idea for them to be background checking people every day? Anything?
Yeah, I just feel like if you aren't inclusive when you make these new rules, you tend to use a sledgehammer for a problem that requires just ball peen, just a little solution. And so what could end up happening is that you start to exclude the grandma, grandpa, or whomever is driving around for a little extra cash. You start to exclude them for reasons that aren't. I don't know. I wonder what the criteria is going to be.
Okay.
That's my concern.
I don't know why I'm thinking or leaning towards the thought of abuse of power. I mean, it seems like, and it also seems safe, and like it's something that you would want them to do. But I don't know. It kind of reminds me of the situation that happened with the DNA testing that led to, wasn't a guy convicted? But actually, that's a good thing. That's good. He was guilty.
This is tech
again,
crossfire now.
It is. We're getting into debate territory now.
And then too,
Well,
if you're doing it daily, how much more does that cost? How much more does it cost?
Is that going to raise the cost of the ride?
Is that going to raise the cost of the ride? Background check is.
Well, at some point, listeners, if you have an opinion about what we are discussing right now, 312-754-4333, and we are also streaming live on Facebook at Urban Broadcast Media. If you don't want to call in, leave us a comment in the comment section about any of the stories we mentioned just a few moments ago. So you may notice, if you are watching on Facebook, that I have on this really nice white t-shirt.
Nice shirt.
Yes, that says Gray Matter. I am wearing this shirt in support of the Gray Matter Experience having their first annual fundraiser on Thursday. So on April 18th, Brittany Robbins, founder, yes,
Shout out.
is hosting her first fundraiser at M-Hub. It will include 2 drink tickets, cash bar available, but more importantly,
What could be more important than a
I had
drink?
to just go ahead and get that in early for the people that have already tuned out about fundraiser. But this is a good fundraiser for a cause. You will learn more about the programs, the students, and the impact of Gray Matter Experience while also enjoying live jazz, a barbecue buffet, and specialty cocktails. If you are someone who is in tech or just in business, key stakeholders will also be present to discuss the impact that Gray Matter Experience has made in the lives of Chicago youth. So, and also if you're not a business person, you're an educator or a parent, it would be a good idea to be present for this fundraiser. And
Great organization.
it's a really great organization.
Incubator for youth, businesses, in tech. Incredible organization.
And I should mention we interviewed 2 business owners last week from Gray Matter Experience, and we have 2 more today. In the last segment of the show, we'll be talking to the founders of Lip Locker. They did complete the Gray Matter Experience 12 weeks. Is it 12 weeks?
Yeah, I believe it's 12 weeks.
12 weeks experience in which they worked really hard to build a business. And both of our founders last week were both, 19?
I believe so, yeah.
Both running businesses. So anyway, I encourage you to come out.
Tech-enabled businesses.
Tech-enabled businesses.
Not just the hot dog stand, which would be cool.
Shout out to the people with the hot dog stands. It's still
Absolutely.
a business. It's still making money.
Everybody needs a hot dog.
Oh my goodness. So I encourage you to come out for a great night of networking with some of Chicago's most notable business leaders and professionals. And it is a chance to support the future of Chicago business, which is our youth. Alrighty.
Here.
Time for gaming. And I will be quick because I did mention this last week, but I'm just really shocked. I don't know why I am shocked, but I am shocked. So Apple is betting big on the gaming industry. And what I am shocked about is that we're talking about a $500 million investment. And Apple has already dished out $1 billion on its TV Plus service, which is set to feature original content from Oprah and Prince Harry. But the what a combination! But Apple's gaming service, which is called Apple Arcade, is set to be one of the company's most successful recent announcements. Apple has been making plans for a new television streaming service and news service. The company will also be splitting iTunes up into separate platforms focused on music and podcasts.
Really?
Yes.
Didn't know that.
It will launch this fall with exclusive gaming offerings. The service won't have microtransactions, ads, or ad tracking. Okay, I like that because ads are kind of
It's probably a paid service though, right?
Yes. Sonic Racing, Lego Brawls, and in a range of
Lego
more than
what?
Brawls, BRAWLS, sir. Thank you very much. And a range of more than 100 other games will be featured on the platform. All right, Apple, still dishing out the new.
Still appling.
I do want to mention that Black Girls Code, I talked last week about their upcoming workshop. There has been a date change. It will be on April 27th. And for more information about that, visit blackgirlscode.com. And you are listening to Urban Broadcast Media. We are The Reboot. Check us out on Twitter at We Are The Reboot and on Facebook, streaming live right now on Urban Broadcast Media. We'll be right back.
Right on. Yeah. 20 minutes flew by, folks.
Oh, or you think you're funny? Are you funny?
When you do stuff you know about, it's not good. When you know this stuff, you're a genius at it, and your delivery is very informative. It's a pleasure working with you.
That's so sweet. He doesn't mean it. He's saying it for the camera.
Absolutely. Real life.
Join me every Friday.
All right,
hard
Breshayia.
analysis. Talk about the black community as solutions on how we can beat that.
I will.
This is no we
Inappropriate.
should overcome. It's time we take our rightful place. Get the blueprint every week at 5 p.m. Fridays on UBM Radio.
Happy with you, you okay?
Journey with me, Monique Smith, on The Politic, 5 p.m. Wednesdays for a show that is unapologetically black, hosted by a fabulous female with a penchant for politics.
Tune in each Wednesday at 5 p.m. for politics and the old school on UBM Radio. Listen at ubmnow.com or download the Urban Broadcast Media app.
Want to keep it in here? I just lay it across the purpose.
Every Saturday at 1 p.m. on the Urban Broadcast Media.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
All right, good. This is good right here. We're gonna be
Yeah.
green.
Green?
Yeah, let's be green. Yeah, just push. We're gonna pull this back. Go next. Get down. Yeah, push this there. Yeah, that one was strong.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
And it's on Player. Thursdays, 3 to 5 p.m. on UBM Radio.
Leon's Barbecue and Grill, Chicago's best barbecue, is proud to announce the opening of Leon's Patio with their brand new sweet shop and extended menu.
May I?
Taste for baked goods,
Yes, that is
ice
great.
cream, smoothies, Chicago style popcorn, happy apples. They've got you. They got pizza, they got wraps, and now they got salads. Whatever you got, taste.
But there was a whole bunch of tracking.
1528 and 63rd Street, 2 blocks
I want
west
to
of
shout out to
Call them at 773-891-4844.
for shorteners.
And now, Leon's delivered.
Interstitial
Leon
pain.
Uber Eats. Just remember, it's in the sauce.
Snips.
UBM Radio. Inspiring legacy, preserving culture, and amplifying voices.
Welcome back to the Reboot. My name is Monique. No.
No, it's not.
Alrighty. All right, welcome back to the Reboot. My name is Monique Wingard. I am in the studio today with Stephen Philpott.
Hey, what's happening?
And joining us is Mr. Richard Perry.
How you doing? How you doing?
Pretty good. So Richard is joining us today for our discussion during what is called the Tech Crossfire, which is normally a debate. But because Richard's new to the Reboot, we're not going to throw him into a debate today. We're going to have a discussion. And today's
We will argue with anybody.
I mean, I don't know if y'all ready.
Just step up. Let's fight.
he will argue with
Get it on.
anybody. Stephen will argue with anybody. But yes, today we're going to keep it friendly.
Is he
and
Steve Jobs or?
Steve Jobs is dead.
Oh,
Oh no!
Oh, too soon?
So, okay, all right. Mediator. I'm gonna put my mediator hat on now. But we're gonna be discussing careers in tech, and specifically whether or not there is more than one route to get to where you want to be, which we know that there is. So, welcome to the show, Richard.
Welcome. Thank you.
Yes. So, I want to know a little bit more about your journey. So you reached out and your story sounded familiar. Not exactly like mine, but I know that I did not go to college to do what I'm doing right now.
okay.
So it sounds similar to your story. Tell us a little bit more.
Yeah. So my journey is there are quite a few people that I even work with professionally that have a similar story, and the story really began with the desire to tell stories. Hill Harper was actually my inspiration for going to school for journalism.
I know Hill. We have the same attorney, same corporate attorney.
Okay,
Sure do.
Word.
Jude Sullivan.
Okay, all right. So yeah, that's awesome. Hill Harper, who went to school for journalism, is also good friends with Barack Obama, former president of the United States, and they both have interesting journeys too. In that, Obama chose a path to become a community organizer and then president of the United States, as opposed to becoming a corporate lawyer, only interested in bottom lines. With that, Hill Harper used his craft as a journalism to network and build relationships. And in essence, that was kind of my goal. I initially went to school for theater, to become a theater director. And a year or two into the program, I realized, as my high school professors told me, what we teach you in high school, when you get to college, you're going to learn the same thing, so don't waste your money doing it. Just do it if you want to. So I made my mind up.
That's a great piece of advice.
Yeah, Yeah,
Build
it is.
upon it if you're going to go to college. Don't expect to.
Exactly. So I changed paths midway through college and switched it up and started studying journalism. And in my toward the end of my junior semester, in the winter break, a friend of mine who was in a band was trying to build the band's website. So we went to the library.
You went where? What's that called?
The library.
We went to the library
They
and got
exist. Okay.
some how-to for dummies for CSS and HTML, and we built the website for the band at the time. And from that, my following semester, I was involved heavily with building web blogs and web magazines for a class that I was in for multimedia. And that was really my first entry into like seeing how, this new wave of, even with UBM being an internet radio show, of having an internet platform to deliver content and information to people, it will be the wave of the future. Mm-hmm. So I graduated, started working in communications, found myself working for NBC as a digital content editor, and there had a lot of opportunities to see how the journalism industry in so many ways is kind of a do-it-yourself, because so much of where it has gone and is now, you have personalities who have access to information and share and deliver that information, whether they are freelancers or they are working at an official capacity for a publication. And we wouldn't have stories like the Laquan McDonald if there were not freelancers and there was not a platform like Twitter and Facebook. However, at the time when I was working in the news, I was actually one of the guys that was pushing back on our aggressive push to be on platforms like Facebook and Twitter, where that was our go-to market as opposed to going to our website first. We were going to social media first to deliver the news, and it, in essence, was adding value to those platforms as opposed to adding value to the information that we were gathering as journalists. Sure. And so I walked away from journalism only to find myself now working for those very tech companies that I was like, we're adding too much value to them. So now I've crossed over. So you're saying, I have a lot of journalism friends that say, "Oh, you switched sides, you went to the dark side." Right. I was like, well, you guys in essence are adding value to it. You're feeding the machine. So
I'm going to bring up two important points in listening to you talk right now. So. Yeah. The first is that you did in fact go to school, but a lot of what added value, since we're talking about value, added value to your career were the things that you did outside of school. That were self-taught, and you having to take the initiative to pretty much throw yourself or get thrown into a situation where you didn't have a choice but to figure it out. Yeah. In order to help the band get a website. Yeah. You could have just said, I'll find somebody that you can pay to do it, or you're just not going to have, won't have a website at all. But you took the initiative to go to the library. Stephen, they exist, the library, and and self-taught. Second part, journalism, and the reason I'm going to bring up journalism is because when I got out of school way back in the olden days,
first school,
back in the day of the MySpace,
go to horse school.
It was during that transition of everything going to digital. And pretty much when you got out of school, you had to almost go right back because all of the tools were changing. Yeah. Everything that you were using to edit video and audio was different. And so while you did go to school for journalism and you tried to get away, but you're still working for tech companies, it's in need. Journalism is still very much something that people in any industry, and which is something that I try to tell a lot of young people that I work with, if they are aspiring to be writers, or maybe even a journalist, tech companies need somebody that can write content. They need people to write those captions that are on social media platforms. They need people that can write a good blog post, that can edit video of their employer that's out and about. But
absolutely,
it's still very much.
I think there's news that maybe last week I read that Netflix is going to be launching a magazine, a physical magazine, to help promote their shows, because it's silly for CNN to publish once a month. Here are the new releases coming to Netflix. Like that's not news. Right. Like you're just a freaking PR machine for Netflix, and Netflix can even go much further in telling interesting stories about their content and behind the scenes of how it was created. Even, you know, a platform like Facebook, I know they are working to, I think maybe 50 million or 1 billion of some sort, 100 million that they're investing into small publications around the country to revitalize journalism, because, I mean, very much so, they've absorbed all of the value that was in journalism by being the aggregators of information. And
both Facebook and Google both have separate platforms, like newsroom platforms.
And speaking of Steve Jobs in a lot of ways kind of gave us foreshadowing of how incentivizing these companies to, you know, make money will over time create a situation where it became the toxic byproduct of a culture where it was all about money and not about the value of the product.
To that point, these companies are making a ton of money without, well, I won't say without. My question, probably to you first, Monique, is if journalism has made the switch to digital, are there still careers using tech in journalism? And is there a path to getting there through higher education or academic institutions, or are you best served in learning the tools yourself? I'll ask you that first.
So the first question was, do the jobs exist, right?
Do the job, yeah. Are there more jobs? Are there fewer jobs?
No, there are definitely more. In my opinion.
Jobs, actual paying jobs.
Actual paying jobs. So you're speaking to someone who has transitioned from the traditional path into working for myself. So at one point, I was not having any issue at all finding those, and I should preface that by saying after I moved to Chicago. So it depends on where you live.
Okay.
So I very much believe and will not lie to somebody and say that, oh yeah, you can be in the smallest, most remote town of Ohio. Shout out to Ohio, OH, I still love you. But some of the media jobs, and specifically digital media jobs, are just not there at all. And the ones that do exist, there's somebody there with no plans on leaving anytime soon for you to step into their spot or to train someone to come in and replace them when that time comes.
So getting into the market, self-trained or academic institutions, what do you think?
I see the value in both. So, and I would never say that I don't regret at all like any of the educational opportunities.
That you have.
3, thank you very much, of which I'm very proud of. However, I also am very much an advocate for people doing internships, paid and unpaid. People, you know, kind of shudder at that unpaid part, but I did a lot of unpaid internships before to get to Chicago.
I mean, for me, even in journalism while I was in school, that's a requirement to take an internship, and that's what I did. I worked with the Chicago Reporter magazine here in Chicago for a whole year. Actually, it initially started as a half a semester where I was working in their media department, then moved over to working in their with the journalism team, the J team on the reporter side, because Chicago Reporter there's 2 magazines there, Chicago Reporter, and then Catalyst Chicago, which is focused on education. And both of those magazines, working with those teams, as well as still to this day, they have a lot of their reporting is focused on database content that they either gathered through FOIA requests or gathered through aggregating stories from, you know, I think one of their biggest projects was documenting from the time Mayor Emanuel was in office, from that time till now, how many of the
schools closed?
No, police, how much money was awarded to families as a result of lawsuits against the city and the Chicago Police Department.
From what you saw from then to maybe now, is there a bigger staff, a smaller staff?
It's smaller. I mean, since I've been there, I know quite a few of the alumni from the time I was there moved on to other publications, bigger, smaller startups. City Bureau is a great example of a publication that is really leveraging data and information. They recently started a new project to focus on infant mortality and growth and development of new mothers specific to African American mothers, and being able to provide. It's a web application where you can basically plug in your information and get exchange text messages with an in-house reporter to provide you with information about your about questions and concerns that you may have throughout your pregnancy.
Gotcha.
So they found a way to develop a direct relationship as well as gather information and share information. So it's kind of an exchange, which is what I feel like most journalism, like community-based journalism, is all about. It's not just about delivering information, but an exchange of information.
Well, you've made the leap from the transition from kind of a traditional job, journalism, into the digital realm of it. I saw you're a cinephile.
Yes.
You have all these different areas that touch your background, but it's a spectrum of things that you do. What's next in terms of career moves for someone like you, or career moves across the spectrum of journalism, data from journalism, data from writing, social media? What's next as far as career is concerned?
What's next really is we've gotten to a point where we have too much information. Essentially, it's gone from the cloud to a lake. Like, we just have it rain. We're raining. It's information just raining on us constantly. It's like we living in Bali or something. And so you have all of this information readily available for people to either make their lives as they so see it being, for good or for bad. You have people who can readily go out here and pick up a car. As you guys were talking about earlier, you have people that can readily go get a car at their, the convenience of clicking the app on their phone, but you don't have that same, wherewithal to make sure that you have all the information you need on the people that you're not hiring to work for your platform.
Right.
Contracting to work for your platform, to speak, in all the technical jargon. But
so there's a level of governance that's missing, you think?
there is a level of governance that's missing, that's specific to the United States. I know that in the UK, as well as just Europe overall,
and China,
they have the GDPR in place that makes it so that most of the companies holding on to this data do not have it for it to then rain out and pour out all this information that in essence can be weaponized against people instead of helping people.
Do you think there's a barrier for blacks to move across these areas where there could be jobs and governance?
That's a great question, and I guess to carry on, we need to get to a point where this information is more siloed instead of out there. For example, recently with the Hebrew Brentley's piece being written over by the city of Chicago's cleanup crew, they decided that they needed to create a database to be able to know which art projects were officially commissioned by the city or by community community commissioned. And so they created a database, and that database in a way I'm sure has to write back to a database that the city of Chicago, those cleanup crews have access to, but those need to be in different spaces. And I think the opportunity lies in being able to create those silos, those data storage facilities, as well as being able to have created spaces where you can exchange that information. I noticed some good examples of people doing that in places like Michigan. Some brothers in Michigan that created their own internet spectrum using old radio waves. So
that's good stuff.
So we're going to be going into a break soon, and I just want to make sure one more point to your point, and I want you each to chime in on the second point. But back to education and journalism, I just want to mention that I do believe that it provides access, that when you do go to an institute of higher learning, that it provides more access. Like, I would have never gone to Washington, D.C. and worked on the Hill, although it was out-of-pocket expense for me to do that. Like, that's one of those unpaid situations. But the trade-off was being at the Pentagon, was being, in the same press area that April Ryan now stands in and ask the hard questions. So, so just really quickly, what does it mean to be black in tech in one word, Steve?
Competitive.
All right, Richard.
Groundbreaking.
Okay. All right.
Richard won.
All right, everybody, we'll be right back. You are listening to The Reboot on urbanbroadcastmedia.com.
Awesome.
Great conversation.
Yeah. There's a lot of opportunities with, and I kind of wanted to end by saying opportunities even exist with getting this.
You're still on Facebook.
Oh, we're still on Facebook. Oh, okay. No, I just want to be able to say that even with being able to create unique opportunities for yourself with building businesses, data warehouses, as well as taking advantage of the spectrum that's available to stream and share information. You can. There's a lot of companies that are looking for people of color to come in and groom so that they can be able to bring fresh ideas, because a lot of these corporations are realizing that as you guys were talking about, they don't have the people in the room to be able to bring all the insights. Right. To say, well, that won't work. That application will put people like me at a disadvantage when it comes to looking for a relationship if I'm on Tinder, or looking for a job when I'm on Upwork. Upwork is really one of those platforms. I would have to say I've never gotten the upper hand on going on Upwork as a black guy, although I have mad credentials.
Right.
So,
It's one of those things.
yeah, and I've been tempted to experiment with it by putting a white face on my profile.
Do you have a Twitter handle?
Yeah, you can find me at I am Richard Perry.
Oh, I was actually giving you that was incredible. Good stuff.
You said I am Richard Perry?
Yeah, I am Richard Perry.
Leon's Barbecue
Okay, gotcha.
Chicago's best
All right.
barbecue is proud to announce the opening of Leon's Patio with their brand new sweet shop and extended menu.
I would love to talk more. I didn't know y'all was going to debate.
Yeah, we normally, the second segment is normally devoted to a debate about a certain topic.
Okay.
But we decided
Y'all was just
not to do that this time. Yeah.
How long have you been doing this segment? I'll talk to you offline. I know y'all got
Absolutely.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Oh, man,
no
thank you. We had
problem.
a guest cancel and you were right on time, man.
I
This is
appreciate
hot.
it.
Yeah.
This is perfect. Cool.
UBM Radio. Inspiring legacy, preserving culture, and amplifying voices.
Two over there. Make sure you guys in the frame. Thank you, sir.
All right, welcome back. Welcome back. You are listening to The Reboot on Urban Broadcast Media. And I'm going to keep saying this until someone calls. If you have any questions or comments about anything that we are discussing here today, you can give me a call at area code 312-754-4333.
Wait a minute, what's the number again?
Oh, goodness. Thank you, Steven.
I got a question.
312-754-4333.
I got a question.
You have a question?
I got a
Well, I
question.
have a question for the two young ladies that just quickly joined us here in the studio. Last week we spoke to two other members of their cohort, which is from where? The Gray Matter Experience.
You
We
can't
both-
see mine.
Yes, you can't see it, but we're wearing Gray Matter Experience swag. Shout out to Brittany Robbins again, and the fundraiser is on Thursday. Go to our Twitter page for more information. We are The Reboot. Joining us here in the studio, Shanayah Brown, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and Breshayia Kelly?
Yes.
Alrighty, these are the founders of Lip Locker, and if you don't mind, if you don't want to answer, it's fine. How old are each of you?
I am 17 years old.
And I'm 18 years old.
So I met you guys like 2 years ago, I think. Just about.
Probably
So about 2
at
years?
the pitch.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. So okay, I aged both of you. I said, they're probably about 19, kind of like Jordan and Lamika that we interviewed last week. 17 and 18.
Yes.
And you both own your own business.
Yes.
And okay, all right. So people that are complaining about running a business, we have a 17 and 18-year-old in here in the studio right now who are founders of their first companies.
Yes.
Yes.
First company. So go ahead and tell us more right now about Lip Locker.
So Lip Locker is a all-natural DIY lipstick company, and in the future we will allow our users to make their own lipsticks using the resources that we give them from the comfort of their own home. Currently, we sell lipsticks that were made with only 3 ingredients, allowing our users to actually know what is in their products that they are putting on their lips. And also, we hope in the future to launch travel sizes and as well as lip liners to match.
Okay, that is awesome. So, what is your response to people who try to compare your company to existing beauty brands? Like, what's your response?
Well, Lip Locker, being a lipstick company that's made with only 3 ingredients, transparency is a key of ours. Many other cosmetic companies, they have lines and lines of ingredients, but not one customer can really name all of them. With us only having 3, coconut oil, beeswax, and mica powder, we allow our users to have the knowledge of what they are putting on the most sensitive part of their face. Because when you apply the other lipsticks, you're applying layers and layers of chemicals and lead, and that builds up, especially being on your face so close. It can potentially harm you, and it can also cause reactions that you may not know that you are having.
Absolutely. So what was the inspiration to go this route, to go, into the beauty brand and not, there's so many other things out there?
Well, when we were brainstorming with Miss Brittany, we both had a similar problem, but the problem of my co-founder was really the highlight. So
And what was that problem?
So me and my older sister, we went to a bunch of different cosmetic stores looking for a specific type of lipstick, but they didn't really have the shade that we were looking for to really pop out and stand out on our skin color.
Okay.
So, her spending hours and hours and then me having a similar experience going store to store, sometimes even on the same block, just to sit there, look for something that was nowhere to be found, and then when we found it, it was not right for us.
Mm-hmm.
So that constant struggle that we both endured made us realize that it was a common problem that we had to solve, and we knew how to solve it.
Okay.
Wow.
That is awesome. Hats off to you, to you both. It is an inspiration again, and I hate to keep harping on the age, but that's why I'm really, really very much impressed, because some people have not started and did not start their first business until they were, twice your age, 3 times your age.
Sure.
So, do you have any advice for like aspiring entrepreneurs who are like having a hard time finding their place or like their voice or even the courage to get out there and start a business?
So I just want to let them know that failure leads to success. So even if you do make some mistakes along the way, it helps you grow.
And with us starting this business, especially having Miss Brittany by our side, we were able to fail multiple times, but we always had somebody to pick us back up. So I would say if you're trying to start a business, never try it alone. Always find somebody that has done it before you, or somebody that can help do it with you, especially having a co-founder. I had a certain insight, she had a certain insight, and together we were able to make Lip Locker.
So these shared experiences helped you get through the tough times, really, like a team?
Yes.
Wow.
Especially having multiple, like we have mentors in every field that we as young people have not been able to work in just yet. So having them like kind of behind us and having our personal experiences to help lead us forward kind of made Lip Locker a straight path into becoming a business.
So how long have you all been in business so far?
Well, we have been in business about a year.
About a year? Okay.
We started the business though 2 years, but we have to go through an incubator to kind of help make sure everything was perfect for launch.
And what was the name of the incubator?
It is the Gray Matter Experience.
Okay, ding, ding, ding.
Fundraiser on Thursday. Check out more information at We Are The Reboot on Twitter. Where do you see the Lip Locker in 5 years? So I was asking like how long you were in business, because if it was 5 years, then I was going to say, okay, 10. But where do you see Lip Locker in 5 years?
Well, in 5 years, we hope to have launched our DIY kits. So we want to have two sides to our business, not just the lipsticks that you can buy regular. We want to have a subscription product which will allow our users to make their own stuff on a daily basis instead of having to rely on that store stock. And we also want to hopefully start launching parties, which will allow some of the youth that were just like us to make their own lipstick with their friends as kind of sort of a fundraiser for whatever cause that they have.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah.
It does sound like a lot of fun. So, do either of you have like a science or chemistry background at all?
We are both still in high school.
See, look at that. I'm just breaking down any excuse anybody could possibly have for starting a business. So I want to make sure I give you two enough time because we are going to do a 2-minute pitch. And if we do have time, I'll have Steve give some feedback. But just go ahead right now. We're going to go ahead and do a 2-minute pitch about Lip Locker. Show them how it's done.
So, Lip Locker is an all-natural DIY lipstick company that in the future will allow our users to create their own lipstick from the comfort of their own home. Countless times you spend in regular beauty stores and supplies just trying to find a shade to match your outfit, but end up with no luck. So, Lip Locker is our solution to that. It gives you the opportunity to create a lipstick using only 3 ingredients with the optional of a 4th fragrance in the kit, and will allow you the transparency and the ability to create a lipstick that is the right shade for both you and the right shade for whatever outfit that it needs to complement with.
Lip Locker is customizable to your own unique style, so you could have it however you like.
And with Lip Locker, it also gives you the opportunity to make a lipstick at home that truly expresses what you are about and also what your style is. Having the functionality of being able to make a lipstick either lighter or darker depending on either your mood, your outfit, really is what makes Lip Locker stand out, because with the other lipstick companies, everything is preset. They do not really take into account your style, they do not take into account your skin color, they do not take into account how long you're going to use it or what you're even using it for. Everything is all mass produced for whoever buys it. And Lip Locker, it is not like that.
All right, thank you both.
You guys are sharp.
Do you know what I thought of as you were doing your pitch and just like talking about your company? It made me think of a current unfortunate situation, Fashion Fair Cosmetics. Are you familiar with Fashion Fair?
We are a little bit familiar with it.
It's okay. It's okay. Totally understandable. You are 17. Excuse me, 17, by all means. But so Johnson Publishing Company, which is the publishers of Jet and Ebony magazine.
They were.
Well,
as of last week.
Right. Unfortunately, yes. So
Steve Jobs is dead.
My heart is broken because they did file bankruptcy, and they are also the owners of a cosmetic company called Fashion Fair. So there's like the Ebony Fashion Fair, fashion show and everything. And I see the two of you, and I feel like this is the kind of innovation that probably could have saved, just that, if nothing else, that part of the organization. So. Thank you both for joining us
Can I
today.
just say one thing?
Yes.
When someone says where you're going to be in 10 years or 5 years, talk about the money you're going to make. You guys sound like a $10 million company right now, so think about where you're going to be in 5 years, 10 years. How much money? You're going to be a $100 million company? Answer that question when you get the chance.
Thank you, Shanayah Brown and Breshayia Kelly, for joining us today on the Reboot. We'll be back next Tuesday. You're listening to Urban Broadcast Media.
Bye-bye.
Thank
you, guys.
Yeah. You did a good job.
You guys are
Thank
amazing. You guys are absolutely
That is,
amazing.
yes,
I'm so
absolutely.
proud of Brittany's work, and you guys are just exemplary of what.
What?
Yes.
I'm getting lipstick.
You got some cherry in there for me? I want some
Sure
cherry.
do.
You got a cherry?
Thank you.
But we are going to start making just lip balm for men.
You should.
Yes.
LL Cool J will buy you out.
That's true. That's true. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm giving you a hug for that. For sure.